Hello everyone, we have an important special announcement for you before the video.
Thunder and Lightning will be streaming on Twitch every Sunday at 5 p.m. starting on February 7th, streaming all our ongoing playthroughs.
If you want to follow us beforehand, you can find the link in the description to this video.
But that's not all!
If we reach 50 followers on Twitch before the 7th, we'll hold our first planned speedrun event early.
So be sure to check it out. Now enjoy your video.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Cinematic Relief. I'm Thunder.
And I'm Lightning.
And I went on a journey recently.
A vision quest.
A vision quest, if you will. Recently, I watched all the Friday the 13th movies, and because he fights Freddy Krueger at one point, I did in fact also watch all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
That's insane.
Except the reboots. I haven't seen the reboots yet. That'll be tonight. But yeah, in the last week I've watched 18 films. And I'm going to talk about probably all of them briefly for at least a little bit.
So I'm a much more casual fan.
Yeah, so how many...
much longer running fan than you, but a much more casual fan. I've always loved Friday the 13th.
Yeah, how many have you seen,
I've probably...
would you say?
So here's the thing. When they're on at Halloween, I've seen the reboots.
Okay.
I've seen the first 3 or 4.
Yeah.
There's definitely one where he's in space or something.
Oh, yeah, that one's fucking great.
I think I've seen part of that.
Allow me...
They all blend together is the issue for me.
Yeah, that's the issue that I was definitely running into watching them so back-to-back like this.
May I ask a question before we start?
Yeah.
You don't typically like scary movies?
These movies were not scary.
No, they're not. Well, they're not, but I feel like...
I feel like there's a distinct difference to be made between slasher film and horror film.
Yeah.
I feel like Paranormal Activity, Insidious, fucking The Visitors or whatever it's called, The Visit.
Horror movies.
Those are horror movies, and I feel like Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers, those are slasher films.
Sure.
And the horror part of these movies are really quite lost on me due to how bad the effects are because they're so old.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Bacon gets stabbed in the neck and his neck is literally a different color than the rest of his face because it's not really him. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of horror films, but I've partaken. There's a couple horror films that I've really enjoyed. But that list shares a lot of movies with the list of horror movies that fucked me up for a couple weeks. So
my question leading to that is, considering you're not the biggest horror movie
why did
fan,
I do this?
What is the motive behind wanting to do this?
To be real, I was watching a Let's Play, and it was in fact an old Let's Play. Super Beard Brothers do this thing where if they're low on content, they'll just re-upload old Let's Plays, but now it's like 5 episodes in one 2-hour long video or whatever.
Okay.
So I was watching that, and they were playing Resident Evil, and they were talking about Friday the 13th, and that's basically what did it. I was like, I've never seen Friday the 13th. I wonder if my dad has any Friday the 13th movies, and he had all of them except 7, 8, and 9, but those were on YouTube. Not many people know this. You can just buy movies on YouTube.
Yeah.
I've rented 6 movies on YouTube over the last week.
Wow.
Because my dad had Nightmare on Elm Street 1 through 4, but not 5 through the reboot. So that's the motivation. I just sort of was like, I've never consumed these, and I wanted to do it. And I wanted to do it the right way. And I did not, call me dumb, but I did not realize that Freddy versus Jason was about Freddy Krueger. I don't know what I thought it was, but I didn't think I would have to consume an entirely different series of movies in order to have the context for this one.
Now, did you stop that one, watch Nightmare on Elm Street, and then watch Freddy vs. Jason?
Basically, I watched 1 through 9. No, 1 through 10. I watched 1 through 10 of Friday the 13th, stopped completely, started Nightmare on Elm Street from the beginning, watched 1 through 7, and then I just watched Freddy vs. Jason last night.
Wow.
So now all I have is the reboots left. I've heard nothing but terrible things about the Elm Street reboot, but I am kind of excited about the Friday the 13th reboot.
You're slowly getting me into wanting to do this because I've tried before on Halloween or something. They'll play all of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to do it. And
Can I be honest about something? I liked the Friday the 13th movies way more than the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
that's kind of where I'm at. I also don't think I've given them a fair enough shot, though.
So this is the only thing I'm qualified to talk about now.
You know, I have I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a local craftsman called Uncle Boogeyman in Salem.
Okay, I love him already.
And he made way back when one of our bands was a bit more
Hardcore.
yeah, I had him make a custom mask for me.
Oh, cool.
Along with that, he made a custom Jason mask for me
Cool.
that I wanted it after everything that would have happened to it. So it's got Freddy's claw marks on it. It's super dirty. It's got like blood stains on it.
You've got the canonical mask that the movies were too cowardly to have him wear.
Too scared to do
Well,
it.
they split the fucking mask in half in number 7, and then 8 comes and he's like, oh, he needs a new one. Anyways,
Yeah.
So
No, but I have like canonically what would his mask look like after going through everything.
yeah,
I'll bring it over here next time because it's something I never thought anybody would appreciate except me.
I would.
It's just sitting in my room.
Yeah. So okay, allow me to briefly synopsize all of these.
Yeah.
So the first one starts, and the first one is really interesting because there's really no villain. The villain is every time the camera goes into first person, you are seeing the eyes of the killer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the first one, if you don't know what's about to happen, is
which
a real...
I did know it was about to happen.
okay. Oh, all right. I was going to say that'd be fun to figure out.
No, I mean, they've been out for a while. I've definitely heard about it. But
yeah.
it was interesting to see the camera play. There's a couple different scenes where, like, the camera's sneaking up on someone, and then they turn around and look at the camera, but it wasn't actually the killer.
Yeah.
It was just like, we're fucking with you. Really liked that.
Yeah.
So, basically...
I wish I went on this journey with you.
I apologize.
No,
it's
not your
I would
fault.
go on the journey again, maybe a little less funny, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is a bunch of camp counselors. One of them is Kevin Bacon. And they're like getting the camp ready. So there's not actual kids there. And they all get killed, and they don't show you who. And then when there's one girl left, there's an old woman comes, and I was like, is she just like about to dump all the lore right on us? And then she totally did. And she explains that she's Pamela Voorhees, and she's Jason. There was a child who drowned in the lake while camp counselors were screwing around, and he died. And that was her son named Jason Voorhees, and now she... So that happened in 53, and then in 54 there was 2 murders at Camp Crystal Lake, which was nicknamed by the public youth Camp Blood. And now in 1980, the camp is opening again, and she is like, no, don't open the camp. So she kills them all. Because she thinks that he wants her to. And then at the end of the movie, the main character ends up killing her. And then she, for some reason, goes on the boat, and she falls asleep on the boat in the middle of the river, and then in the lake, rather. Can't believe I said river. And then the cops come, and they're like, hey, what are you doing? And then Jason comes out of the lake.
Did you know that was going to happen? I
did, but it didn't take away from the fact that it was like, maybe the coolest twist ending in any movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Because the music is like, trust me, everything's fine.
Yeah. No, the way they set it up, it's the eeriest part of probably the whole series.
Yeah.
You feel it's the last 30 seconds of the film where you're like, oh.
Yeah. No, it was crazy. Mostly every other Friday the 13th movie tried to have their like jump scare twist ending right at the end, and none of them were as potent as that one.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think that he's not the villain in one.
He's not even, other than that, which could or could not be a dream sequence. He's not even in 1.
Right. He's the bad guy in 2, does not have the hockey mask.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
3rd is when we finally get the hockey mask and we're introduced to the Jason we all know and love today.
I love him. I think he's great.
He is my favorite horror movie. And I know that's not original. I know I'm sitting here like, isn't that cool? I love Jason. Don't you love Jason? But like I do. He's pretty
No,
pretty
I mean
cool.
I love him now.
He's the rich man's Michael Myers.
So the second one is a little worse than the first one only because of how similar it is.
Yeah.
The movie
Except
starts
this time it's him.
right. The movie starts out with her, the main character from the first one, for like a scene, but then she gets killed by Jason because Jason is a being that acts on revenge. He's like he acts upon the immediate revenge, and then when he's done with that, he just kills whomever.
Yeah.
And the 10th movie confirmed something that I had been theorizing for a while. Jason actually has like people are having premarital sex spidey senses. Like it's not just a joke. Like that he like knows if you're fucking and you shouldn't be.
Try to make the he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
He knows when you're having premarital sex. It fits right in there.
Yeah.
So that happens, and then that's kind of detached from everything else that happens. We've got
his spidey sense.
Yeah, no, the scene where he kills the woman who killed his mom, because assuming he was actually alive in the lake, he probably saw his mom get killed.
Right.
So now he's like a big, weird swamp forest man. That's technically couldn't happen, but like let's just say it could for the sake of it, you know. It's weird. Like he's sort of indestructible, but they don't really explain why.
The way I chalk up Jason is he's a ghost.
But
He's a poltergeist.
But he's not though. He's a dude.
Is he though? I mean, you have to die. If you're a mortal being, you die. So in my mind, he's either a god or he's a ghost.
He dies. He dies in like 4 of them.
Yeah, but he doesn't actually.
He does. I'll get to that.
No, I know, but yeah, no, I know. I get it.
He does die.
I know.
So 2 happens. It's basically the same movie, except you get the whole like
This time it's him.
This time it's him, and they never show his face, right? So the whole movie is still like the first person camera thing that they're doing. And then at the end, when he kills the 2 people in the bed, he takes the bed sheet, puts it over his head, and that's how they show him for the final like the last girl sequence, they call it, even though sometimes it's a dude and sometimes it's 2 people. And it fails. So it has the scene where you find out about the mom, and you find out that he has the mom's head, and the reason he's doing this is because he thinks that his mom is telling him to. It's the only one where Jason actually like has an abode, like he has like a house he goes back to. But other than that, it tries to do the same exact jump scare again, and it falls flat because it's just like, oh, I think we beat him, and then it's like, oh, we totally didn't. So then 3, which is I think the best one out of the first 3, is a movie that is supposed to be seen in 3D, and I tried, but old shitty, not how 3D really works. 3D glasses don't work with modern day LCD TVs.
Yeah.
So I could not watch it in 3D, but it was pretty good. It's better than the other 2, but like just by a little bit, because it technically is the same movie again, but I feel like the characters were a little more interesting, and they do that first-person camera stuff until he gets the mask. He gets the mask halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
And then you just see him because you're like, oh, you can't see his face. Because that's what they were trying to avoid. They want their one face reveal each movie, right?
Yeah.
So now that he's wearing a mask, and he's like, this is my mask now. He does not talk. And
then birthed the face of horror movies.
Yeah, exactly.
It only took 3 of his own films to finally get it.
So the third one is weird because everyone dies, right? And there's a final girl, and then she does the same exact thing as the girl in the first movie does. She goes out on the boat, and now she's in the water, and she's like fell asleep overnight. And then the same thing happens. She wakes up, except cops aren't there. Jason is there, unmasked, and he's like still chasing her. And then cut back to her on the boat, and then the mom, who's wearing the same sweater and has her head reattached, comes out of the water, and that's the jump scare. But that was totally fake. That was like a dream. Jason chasing her, and that was like a dream she was having, or whatever. Because there's always, like, for the first couple of movies, there's always, like, it's over, and then we have a scene with the cops where it's like, did anyone else survive?
Yeah.
No, you know? The fourth one is where... Oh, I got a text. That's probably your food, maybe. Order is on the way. Sick. The fourth one is the one where lore starts to get introduced. So there's a mom and a little brother, and there's a teenager, mom, little brother, right? And they live in a house next to a house that is being rented over the weekend by a bunch of teenagers. And one of them is Crispin Glover, the dad from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And the little kid is Corey Feldman. And he is playing Tommy Jarvis, who, if this series was to have any semblance of a main character other than Jason, it is Tommy Jarvis, right? So, other than that, basically... the killings start, right? And the mom dies and all the kids at the party die. Can I just take this as an opportunity to talk about skinny dipping for a second?
Sure.
What is the fascination with skinny dipping in these films? There's always one skinny dipping scene.
I don't know. I guess it's something they think teenagers do a lot.
There's a movie that came out in 1993 called Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday, and you'd think that that one would be the one with no skinny dipping. But there's actually a skinny dipping scene. It happens off camera, but it still happens. Anyways, I don't get it. If you were and me were hanging out with a bunch of people, and you or anyone in our party was suggested going skinny dipping, I would say no, and then I would have a 20-minute conversation trying to dissect why that person suggested that, because I think that's pretty weird.
It's weird in a group of people if you and your significant other are like, "Oh, we're alone at the lake."
Yeah, sure, whatever.
I guess if you want to, it's also there's a lot of parasites and stuff.
Yeah,
in
that's
lakes.
the
Do you
other
really
thing.
Want to do that?
Especially as a female, I don't know if I would. Yeah.
No, there's a lot of reasons not to.
Yeah. It was just so weird. I was like, I don't get it. I get the whole we need to have sex at one point because that's his whole MO, right? And I get the, you want to do drugs, whatever. But every scene until movie 6, which we'll get to that, but movie 6 dropped the skinny dipping. But anyways, so the fourth one happens, and the final girl sequence is the girl who is the girl who's like the main character girl, and her brother Tommy Jarvis, who's like a 6 or 7 year old, and he is actually the person who kills Jason, right? So he stabs him a bunch. Jason's definitely 100% dead now, for real. And then the fifth movie happens, and the fifth one is one of the worst ones. I hated 5. That's the one that happens it's a psych hospital, but it's like a cool youth pastor-y psych hospital that's like in the middle of a suburban town, and no one is okay with it, as they shouldn't be. And basically at the beginning of that one of the patients kills another patient, and one of the patients at this psych ward is Tommy Jarvis, but he's an adult now, and he's having hallucinations about Jason. So every time he sees Jason, he's like, no, you're not real, and then Jason disappears. So then when Jason does finally show up, he's like, no, you're not real, and then he's like, oh shit, it really is Jason, except it's not Jason. It's the dad of the person who got killed at the beginning of the movie, disguised as Jason. So Jason is actually not in 5.
No kidding.
It's just a dude in a Jason costume. Like, he literally puts a fake head on to look more like Jason's head. That one actually has a subtitle. So part 4 is called The Final Chapter, which is hilarious because there's like 8 more films. But the 5th one is called A New Beginning, because I think they were going to try to do like a whole like Jason's super dead, but we're going to do other thing. But part 6 is the best one, hands down.
Is that the one where like lightning strikes his grave?
Yes, it is. It's called, I think I knocked shit down in my room. I got so excited. It's called Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Tommy Jarvis is back. He's a little more mentally stable. He's played by a new actor, and he's like, I'm going to go to the fucking grave where Jason is, and I'm going to dig up his grave, and I'm going to set his corpse on fire. There will be no more Jason nightmares. So he goes there with his bud. He digs him up. He lets anger overcome him for a brief moment, and he takes like part of a fence that he finds, and he stabs it into Jason. And then that gets struck by electricity, and Jason is brought back to life. And now we are completely in the realm of science fiction.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that, because the first couple movies were like, this could happen, but why is he indestructible? We'll never say. But this one is like, no, it's all fake bullshit. This is a mythical creature now, and he has superpowers. There's a part in 6 where he kills a dude, he throws him into a tree, and the dude's face gets impaled on a branch. That's how he dies. But it cuts back to Jason. He's holding his arm. Like, he ripped his arm off accidentally, and he looks at it, and he just looks back at the camera. And I think it was supposed to be funny, but I interpreted that as Jason doesn't know his own strength because he's a zombie now, so he actually, like, has superpowers now. You know? That one was phenomenal. In that one, Tommy Jarvis, it's basically
I used the word
just...
ghost. I should have also used the words. Like, he could have been a zombie from the start.
Right, but he wasn't. But now he is in part 6.
Yeah, I mean, but he even, like, because he died as a kid. Movie 1, and by movie 1 I mean movie 2, he could have already been a zombie.
Yeah, but movie 2...
They killed the zombie, then he comes back as another zombie.
Movie 2, 3, and 4 go out of their way to say he survived somehow, like, over and over again.
Okay.
And it really
I haven't seen him in a while, so if I go off script
it really just, they keep driving home the point that, like, I guess he didn't die, and he's just a weird lake monster man. Which doesn't make any sense, right? But now that he's a zombie, it's all fake, and it's all science fiction, and we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And hang on, what is that? Is that a gun? You're right. Someone finally brought a gun to part 6. No one has tried shooting this thing before. It's a little too late now because he's an unkillable zombie, but sure. So in that one's the best one. It has engrossing characters. All the Friday the 13th attempt to have character development, and for what? All the characters are going to die. There's a super sympathetic, like, you're supposed to root for this character in part 3, who's like sort of the main character for a few scenes. He gets killed off camera. And it's like, why are we attempting character development? But, like, now that part 6 is happening and it stars Tommy Jarvis, a character we've been through with for 2 movies already, and it actually has a good plot and an engrossing storyline, and it's literally Jason versus Tommy. And every time Jason's near anyone, he's like, I'm gonna kill him. But when Tommy's there, he's like, that's the dude who killed me. I'm gonna get him. And part 6, the camp is open. There's children at the camp. They don't get killed, obviously. Jason's never killed a child. But it's more suspenseful because you care about the kids. You're like, oh my God, there's like 20 kids. It just does a lot of good, and it also happens to be the one where he gets resurrected as a zombie. It's crazy, but so there's no killing him anymore, right, quote unquote. So what Tommy Jarvis does is he succeeds in tying a rock to him and trapping him at the bottom of Crystal Lake, right?
Yeah.
And there's a scene when he's being shown drop down to the bottom of the lake where you see a sign, and the sign says, like, 10 miles to Camp Crystal Lake, and lake is crossed out and in red spray paint. It says blood, so it says 10 miles to Camp Blood. And that is just, like, an Easter egg that was so cool and didn't have to be there, because we never see that. We only hear stories about how it used to be called Camp Blood, but now it's reopened, and maybe we gave it a different name in this movie to make people forget that it's Camp Crystal Lake, even though the town is called Crystal Lake Town, which is a shitty name for a town. But it was like a bit of, like, lore trapped in an Easter egg, and I was like, that's cool. So part 7 happens, and I did a little research on this one. Part 7 happened because they wanted to do Freddy versus Jason back in 1989, or whatever, whenever 7 came out, but they couldn't until New Line Cinema acquired the rights for Friday the 13th. So instead, someone at the company proposed. That's the word.
Yeah.
What if Jason fought Carrie from the Stephen King novel? And they couldn't get their license to that character either, but they essentially made the movie. That's why in 7 it's called The New Child, and it's Jason versus this psychic girl. That one's cool because visually, well, first of all, she uses her psychic powers to bring him back to life or whatever. He wasn't actually dead, but he was, like, waterlogged or whatever, you know, from, like, being under the lake forever.
Yeah.
So she, like, reanimated him or whatever, because her dad She accidentally kills her dad at the beginning of the movie as a kid, and he's trapped in the lake somewhere, but he's definitely dead. And she feels a body in the lake, and she thinks it's her dad, but she actually brings back to life Jason Voorhees. And visually, he is definitely a zombie. Like, his back is ripped open, and you can like see his rib cage. And there wasn't a face reveal in 6, so the face reveal in 7, when they reveal his super zombied ass face, is like so cool. 7 was pretty good. Wasn't as good as 6. Definitely the second best one out of those 7. Friday the 13th 8 is the worst one. It's called Jason Takes Manhattan. And have you seen this one?
I don't think so.
It's the most missable one. Not only is it excruciatingly boring and takes place only maybe 15 minutes of the hour and a half runtime takes place in Manhattan, it actually fucks with canon and lore and like retcons a few things that don't make sense. Like the main girl in Takes Manhattan, who if you're following the plotline should be taking place in the year 2002, was somehow a 4 or 5 year old girl who encountered little kid version of Jason who was stuck in the lake still. It's so bizarre. And also most of the movie takes place on a cruise line to Manhattan. So the fact that it's called Take Manhattan has almost nothing to do with it, because he kills everybody on this boat. And that part was at least a little interesting, where it's like, oh my God, we're stuck on this boat and Jason's here. But it was not done well. The we're stuck in a place thing, but Jason's here is done way better in Jason X, the one where he goes to space, which is not the worst film, probably one of the better ones. But Takes Manhattan was so bad. Sometimes Jason Voorhees will do things just for our benefit. He'll do things just to be scary. And every time I kind of look the other way, and I'm like, whatever, man. But he does it so much in this movie. He's talking to a couple, not talking. He's like, a couple street kids are talking to him, and they're like, you want to smoke with us? And he takes off his mask and shows his fucked up face to them.
Yeah.
That's it. He doesn't kill them. He just does that. And it's like, but kill them. You're Jason Voorhees, the one who kills everyone. It's just, there's a scene where he's like chasing the 2 main character kids through a bus, and there's like a ton of people he could kill, but he just doesn't. He's after these 2 people for some reason. It's not great. It does this weird thing also where the opening credits are a bunch of establishing shots of Manhattan, and then we go to the whatever the actual movie is. And then when they're being chased through Manhattan, they visit all the places from the establishing shots, which I thought was very weird. It's not good. It's the most skippable one, but don't skip it, because number 9, did we go to hell? Is hell next? Yeah, the next one's Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, which is what it's called. Yeah, sure it is. This movie only exists to promote Freddy vs. Jason, a movie that will not come out for 10 years after this film came out, because it came out in 1993, and because this is the first New Line Cinema one. This one's pretty bad. Also, it takes place 0% of the time in hell. And it follows this bounty hunter who's like made a name for himself knowing all the tricks about Jason Voorhees and how to kill him and stuff. And essentially, you meet Diana and Samantha Voorhees, his sister and his niece. And basically, at the beginning of the film, the military manages to explode Jason, but his heart is still beating. And the doctor is giving him an autopsy, and he sees that the heart is still beating, so he eats it. And now
that's the way to go. And
now he is Jason. Like, Jason's soul is in him now.
Oh, okay.
So now Jason is body swapping the whole movie, and his goal is to get to either Samantha or Diana, or Diana or Samantha, or Samantha's newborn baby. Because if he finds Voorhees, then he can like come back to life, I guess. And he goes from body to body by like sticking his tongue into the mouth of another person, and they like swap. He's like a thing. Jason Voorhees is like a thing that's like inside these people. It was very weird. It wasn't the worst Freddy. It wasn't the worst Friday the 13th movie, but it was very weird.
This is 9.
This is 9, yes. And he like basically the only person who can kill him is Samantha because Diana dies early on in the movie. And this bounty hunter's like, you have to kill him, Samantha. You're his only relative. And then he like throws her a knife, and the knife like bad 90s CGI turns into like this ornate knife, and it's like, oh, the knife that kills Jason. It's so weird. And then Jason. Oh, this is great. This is hilarious. He finds the mom's dead body in the basement, and then he crawls through her vagina, and now he's inside her. And then cut back to them upstairs. They're like, oh, no, he's down in the basement with the body. And then a fully formed, fully grown Jason Voorhees jumps up and is like, I'm here now. He doesn't really talk, obviously.
Which makes it probably more awkward.
But then he kills the bounty hunter and the boyfriend, and the boyfriend lives. The boyfriend lives. Samantha manages to kill him. He gets dragged to hell. We see him get dragged to hell. They walk off into the distance, and then they show Jason's mask, and this is the twist ending. This is probably the only film where the twist ending actually succeeded in getting me, because his mask is in the dirt, and then who comes out of hell and picks up his mask? It's Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger's hand comes out of the ground and takes his mask and is like, you're mine now, bitch. So then he drags him down to hell, and that's how the movie ends, and Lightning's food is here, so we'll be right back.
Okay.
Lightning, that break we had to take was a perfect segue. Let's talk about Nightmare on Elm Street now for a bit.
Sure.
So...
You didn't talk about space.
No, because... I'll explain why.
Oh, is it canonically after?
It is... Okay. Jason X was made in 2002, and the only reason it was made is because Freddy vs. Jason, which came out in 2003, was in development hell.
Okay.
There's even a cheeky little visual thing at the beginning to be like, we know he's supposed to be in hell right now, but we're sorry. Here's the space one while you wait. So it's clearly supposed to be viewed last.
Okay.
So we will get to that in a sec. I want to jump over to Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street real quick. Didn't like these movies as much. The first one is fine. You know, it sets up a lot of stuff for the next ones, the subsequent films. Including the series, the only character who can be considered the main character of this series, Nancy, played by Heather Langenkamp, which is important. How many of these have you seen?
Maybe part of the first one. I really haven't
Oh, okay,
gotten that
cool,
far.
perfect. Okay, so basically, Freddy Krueger, and they do a terrible job of explaining this, but Freddy Krueger is a ghost. He is the ghost of a child murderer who was...
I did know that.
He was going around murdering children, and then the parents of the town took out their revenge on him and burned him alive, and now he's dead, but he's back as a ghost. And in the 7th one, they actually show you, like, that he, like, has a job to do, and he, like, there are beings that, like, told him that he has to do this. So he doesn't really act upon revenge that much. Like he does to an extent, but only because I think he feels like, or he was told to kill all the children. His goal is to kill all the children of the people who killed him, right?
Okay.
But that threshold of children gets extended to any children on the street, and then it's like, oh well, it's back to just the children of the parents who killed him, but there's more than we thought, and all that stuff. The first one, hilariously enough, has Johnny Depp in it, which is crazy because the first Friday the 13th movie had Kevin Bacon in it. And it's just so weird to me that both of these series, the first iteration, had a super huge male actor who's huge now.
Yeah.
But got their start in these series. It wasn't Kevin Bacon's first film, but it was Johnny Depp's first film.
Really?
Yeah, and he's like, couldn't be older than 16 or 17.
Wow.
But yeah, so the first one is fine. First one's one of the better ones. The second one's the worst one ever. I sort of don't even want to talk about it. It was probably the worst movie I'd say Takes Manhattan was worse than Freddy 2. Basically, there's this kid in 2, and Freddy is like in him, and he's like trying to break free, and it was weird. No one talks about that one. 3 was one of the best ones. It was called Dream Warriors. The girl from 1 is back. This time she works at a psych ward, and they establish the canon that when you're in the dream world, you have one superpower of your own choosing, which is pretty cool. And that is a theme that comes back throughout the rest of the movies. Lawrence Fishburne is in 3, and they credit him as Larry Fishburne, which is hilarious. Never heard him called Larry before. Lawrence Fishburne, of course, Morpheus from The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, that's that character's name. And then they get into the habit of the 4th one stars the main character from 3. Just kidding, she was killed at the beginning. Now it's her friend. And then the 6th one is her friend. Oh, just kidding, it's not really, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The 4th one, the 5th one, and the 6th one really blur. They're really just the same movie and over and over again. The fourth one, Dream Master, introduces the concept of Dream Master, which is a real scientific concept of like there's a gate blocking your dreams, and they have to like kill Freddy by like breaking through his or something like that. They kill him a whole bunch of ways, and it never sticks. He even talks about that in Freddy vs. Jason. He's like, they tried using holy water. They got past my gate, but none of it fucking worked. But yeah. And in the 6th one, it's called The Dream Child, and the girl from 5 has a child, and the child is in her. It's unborn. But Freddy's trying to get at it, and every time she dreams, there's a little like 3 or 4 year old kid who is like her child, quote unquote. And I recognized him immediately. That child was the same actor who played the kid from the beginning of Jurassic Park. What is his name? You did a video essay on him?
Oh,
he's got like,
I don't know what his actual name is or his name in Jurassic Park, but the obnoxious kid.
Yeah. He had like his name is like Boy from that scene or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. But it was that actor. And I was like, oh shit. He's just the creepy kid from all the early 90s movies. Or late 80s or whatever. The 6th one is completely detached. It's still in the same canon, but it has nothing to do with any of the other characters. It's just like it does share a weird similarity with Jason Goes to Hell, where we're following a woman who is revealed to be Freddy Krueger's actual daughter. And that film sets up way more backstory than any other film did about, like, here's how he was born and what was happening during the murders and stuff. And we actually get to see Robert Englund out of the Freddy makeup, which is pretty crazy. And then the 7th one, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, might be the best film I've watched out of all of these. It was really good. It stars Heather Langenkamp, the woman who played Nancy, but she's playing Heather Langenkamp. She's playing herself. And this movie is a movie about Wes Craven wants to make a new Friday the 13th. Sorry. Damn it. I knew it would happen. Wes Craven wants to make a new A Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but as he's writing the script, the script he's writing is the movie we're watching, and the movie is happening, and Heather Langenkamp and her actual son are being haunted by a real-world Freddy who's just called the Entity, and he looks way scarier and, like, super creepy, and, like, Robert Englund is in the movie as himself, and, like, the girl from 4 is in the movie as herself, and Wes Craven shows up, plays himself, and it's very meta.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's like
that kind of sets up the universe of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street to just be movies.
Yeah, it's like a new canon, right? Like all the movies, as far as this movie is concerned, all the A Nightmare on Elm Street movies are fictional.
Yeah.
But there is a real Freddy that is actually haunting Wes Craven and Heather Langenkamp.
Yeah.
And they have to like put a stop to him, and it's filled with references to the first 3 Nightmare on Elm Street movies. There's a scene where she's like walking upstairs and she's like sinking into them, which was pretty iconic from the first movie, and she has to do it again in this film. And it was genuinely creepy. It was probably the best film I've seen so far out of all 18. and the scariest.
Huh.
It wasn't actually really scary, but it was definitely like the creepiest one. It had me. It was such an interesting concept for a movie, and I read about that before I watched it, and even after reading that, like, it was going to take place outside of the whatever, it wasn't what I expected. It was
Bizarre.
honestly pretty exceptional. It was bizarre, but it was a great film, and I didn't expect to like it that much. So then, I'm gonna go over these. Oh, you know what? I didn't do what I said I was gonna do, but whatever. If you're gonna watch these movies in order, I think you should do what I did with a few changes. I think you should watch all of Friday the 13th until it goes to hell. Start A Nightmare on Elm Street all the way over, and then watch until The Dream Child. Then watch Jason X and A New Nightmare, because they're the sort of like soft reboot kind of spin-offy ones. And then watch the 2 hard reboots that were made in like 2009 or whatever.
Yeah.
So cutting back over to Jason real quick. Jason X, the one where he goes to space, is probably one of the best ones. Definitely top 3. Probably goes 6, then 7, then this one. It was like really good. We're back to having interesting characters and a cohesive plot, and it's filled with self-referential comedy. There's one joke at the very end of the movie that I don't actually want to spoil, but it's like the best joke in any of the Friday the 13th movies, because they're not supposed to be funny, but sometimes they are.
Yeah.
But this one tried to be funny in at a couple certain points, and it really works in its benefit. This one is, of course, famous for introducing Uber Jason, as he's canonically called, which is they managed to kill Jason. I forget how. Oh,
He's
they
an
have
Uber
like a
driver. In
they
this
have
one?
like yeah yeah he's a space Uber driver. Okay, so the year is the distant future of 2008,
Okay.
and Jason is under government custody, and basically our main character, the first Asian to appear in these movies,
Wow.
she is like in charge of like they're gonna put him into cryostasis, but other branch of the government is like, no, we have to do research into his regenerative tissue and how he keeps coming back to life and all this bullshit. And then one thing happens or another, and then both Freddy and the main character are frozen in cryosleep, and they're reawoken in the year 2445.
Did you mean Jason in the main character?
Did I say Freddy?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, I meant Jason. And it's 2003 when they're making this film, but it's 2445, so they have all this crazy tech that will probably never exist. Like the dude loses his arm and they just grows back with some weird thing. But they have a robot lady. She's like a, what do you call it? An android. She's a robot but made to look like a human. And he like off screen gives her an upgrade, and now she's like a badass robot lady, and she just beats the shit out of Jason and kills him. But they forgot that he was in the room with the nano ants that bring your molecules back to life. So now Jason is a cyborg, and his left arm and his right leg are metal, and he's so fucking strong.
This isn't the space one?
Yeah, this is the space one.
Okay.
Yeah, because the whole movie, they go down to Earth, which is they call it like Dead Earth or something. They call it like Earth 1, and they're on their way to Earth 2 the whole time. But they find Jason and the woman. They bring her on the spaceship, and then they unfreeze Jason, and he somehow comes back to life because we didn't know he was Jason Voorhees and that he could do that. And then they do the boat thing from Takes Manhattan, but they do it way better. There's like, oh no, now we're trapped into this part of the ship because Jason is there in this one, and he killed these people. It's a really well put together movie, and I feel like people meme on it. I feel like people are like, Jason in space, fuck off. But it was like if you can get over that, the fact that Jason Voorhees is now in space, it's actually a pretty good movie. And I'd say it's one of the better ones, and it's worth a watch. It doesn't you hear Jason goes to hell, whatever, right? But you hear Jason goes to space, and you're like, that probably shits all over the legacy of all the other films, and it just like totally doesn't. It's very interesting.
That's cool.
The one thing I'll say, and then there's the reboots, but I haven't watched them yet, so maybe I'll watch my video essay in like a year from now to see that. The one thing I will say is that And I know that this is a product of different creators and producers and stuff, but Jason, after the 7th movie, starts to look different, which is kind of weird. Like, he's not in 1, except for the thing that might be a dream sequence or not. In 2, he's just a guy with a messed up face,
Mm-hmm.
but you expect him to have a messed up face because he did it when he was a child, too. And then in 3, he's that same dude. In 4, he's that same dude. In 5, it's not him. In 6 and 7, he's a zombie. In 8, he's back to having a weird normal face. He looks more like a sea creature than a zombie dude, which I guess makes sense. I guess, but it doesn't. He should still have his zombie parts. And also his outfit is back to being completely not torn up. And he wears gloves in that one for some reason. And then 9 happens and his like head is black now. Like it looks burnt. Even though the last time we saw him he drowned to death. And then I haven't talked about Freddy versus Jason yet.
No.
I totally forgot to do that. I'm going to do that next. In my head I did, but I didn't yet. But then in
How long have we been going? Just because we might need to just keep moving along.
Yeah. No, we're almost done.
Okay.
We're almost done for sure. But then in the space one he looks fine, but he has hair, and he didn't have hair in any of the other ones. And then in Freddy vs. Jason, his head is back to being black, and he's got no hair. But Freddy vs. Jason, for everything that was leading up to, it was just sort of whatever. Weirdly enough, like, first of all, I'm glad I watched Nightmare on Elm Street because it was definitely a Freddy movie with Jason in it, and not the other way around. But essentially what happens is they're both in hell. They don't fucking show hell ever once, and I can't figure out why. But Freddy disguises himself as Jason's mom and tells Jason, now you're going to come back to life and you're going to kill some more. So he does. And he goes to Elm Street, does some killing, and because he's doing some killings on Elm Street, there's some scuttlebutt, which is literally how Freddy comes back to life, is scuttlebutt. And they're like, could it be Freddy Krueger? And now that people are talking about Freddy Krueger again, Freddy gets to come back. And now he's like, I'm back now. But he brought Jason back to life and to Elm Street. So Jason keeps killing the people that Freddy's trying to kill. So then he gets mad. Even though his plan was dumb to begin with and didn't make any sense, he gets so fucking mad that they start fighting. And it happens not how you'd expect it to. Freddy brings Jason into the dream world first. Then he fights him. Freddy also possesses a human being in this film, something he's never done before. And then they fight. And then the kids who were following are bringing Jason to Crystal Lake because their idea is like, when we get there, you're going to fall asleep. You're going to bring Freddy into the real world. Jason, they literally say this, is going to have home field advantage because we'll be on Crystal Lake, and then they'll fight. And then they do, and Jason wins, except at the end of the film,
Freddy Krueger like blinks or something, right?
he winks. Yes. It shows, it's a completely non sequitur scene. Jason's walking out of Crystal Lake, and he's holding Freddy's head, and Freddy like winks at the camera, and it's like, well, I
think they're
I don't
planning
know,
on
man.
it too.
Are they?
I think so.
I didn't come across that in any of my travels.
Maybe
on the
I'm wrong.
internet. Maybe they were, and they gave up on that with the failure of the reboots. I can only assume. But yeah, that's essentially all of them. I mean, that is all of them. That's essentially what I wanted to say on them.
Let me ask,
Yeah.
because you've watched Friday the 13th. You watched Elm Street in their
Yes.
entirety.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yes.
you're missing the third big honcho.
I don't care about
You don't
him.
care about him?
No. I was reading up on him. First of all, he doesn't cross over with these idiots. I didn't even want to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I
Right.
had to. I felt like I had to. And I'm glad I did because I found a really good movie in there. Wes Craven's A New Nightmare. Or Wes Craven's New Nightmare. But I've seen Cinema Sins, the
Yeah.
YouTube. I've seen a couple of his videos on the Halloween series, and like my one biggest complaint about Jason is whenever they fuck with canon and they fuck with continuity. And it seems like they do that all the time in the Halloween movies. Like 1 and 2 happen, and then 3 happens, and it's not connected. And then they're like, forget what happened in 2, and then 4 happens, and they're like, this is a sequel to 3, but stuff from 1 is going to happen, and then 5 happens, and they're like, okay, this was a sequel to 2, the one we told you not to fuck around with. And then the new one is like a sequel to 1, and it's like, forget all the other ones happened. And I just like, I cannot. Also, those ones seem pretty actually scary from what I've seen.
He is, out of all of them, I would say he's the one that scares me the most.
Like looking wise,
visually.
yeah.
Just because his mask is horrifying.
Yeah. Do they explain why his mask is that?
I don't remember if this is the reboot or the original. I'm pretty sure he just gets it at a Halloween store.
Oh yeah, because there was didn't Rob Zombie make the reboots?
Yeah. I thought he did the Friday the 13th ones, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's the I was gonna say Michael Jackson.
The Halloween movies.
Yeah, the Halloween movies.
Because there's one Friday the 13th reboot and one A Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, but there's 2. There's a Halloween reboot and a sequel to that reboot, if I remember correctly.
You could be right.
I think I am right. No, I just don't care, especially after seeing, from what I can tell, the 2 better ones of these 3.
Yeah, I mean, Halloween 1 is pretty good. I sit down and watch Halloween 1. I think it has... I don't want to say that.
Okay.
No, I won't say that.
Okay.
It was good.
Okay.
If you're gonna watch any of them, I'd say watch 1.
Could I, watch 1 and then just be done with it?
If you want to. That's usually what I do with these.
Okay.
Like, I'll sit down. I've never gone as hard as you
Well, I
did.
think that's why I went so hard, because I was like, I could just watch the first one. I could just watch the first 3, the ones everyone talks about. But, there's all these other ones, and they sound like they get fucking nuts. This asshole's going to go to space? Is he going to go there on his own? What the fuck is happening? Why is he going to space? And I was like, I just have to know what's happening.
Don't you like how
And
they're
then-
like, he's gonna go to hell, and then they come out with the next one, and it's like, screw that. You're telling me he goes to space?
And that's, I think that's where the meme started. The meme of horror villain goes to hell, then he goes to space, and it's like, but have you watched him? Because Goes to Hell was fine, if not pretty weird and disconnected, but X was great.
Thor 5, Jason goes to Asgard.
Also, I find it really funny. So part 4 is called The Final Chapter, and if I may, it's very gauche of them to call these shits part 3, part 4, part 5, because calling it a new part of something implies that this was the plan from the beginning, and it was fucking definitely not. The 4th one's called The Final Chapter, and the 5th one's called The New Beginning. It might as well be called The Last One Made Money, so will this one. But the 7th, the 9th, Freddy, oh my god, the 9th
Jason.
Friday the 13th movie, and the 6th Nightmare on Elm Street movie are called The Final Blank. That one's called Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and that one's called Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. And I can only assume they did that on purpose, because then it's like, just kidding, they're fighting now. But we got 2 more
both
movies
made
before that
pacts
happened.
to stop.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy that I love when things do what Mortal Kombat did, where they're like, the 7th one is the last one, and then the 7th one makes so much fucking money that they're like, oh shit, we gotta make an 8th one. We gotta make an 8th one. And then, to bring it all home, in Mortal Kombat 9, you can play as Freddy Krueger, and in Mortal Kombat 10, you can play as Jason Voorhees. And how did they fuck that up? Why aren't they in the same game? At least we got Alien versus Predator. But, if you
The
had them both,
ultimate crossover. Alien versus Jason versus Predator versus Freddy.
and Freddy's gonna fucking win because he's super OP. Like, I don't want to see
He
that 'cause
didn't
I
win
know,
the first time.
but he didn't lose. He's still alive.
He didn't lose, but he won less than Jason won.
I mean, you're right. You're not wrong. It was cool. I'll say this. It was cool and very novel to see them use each other's weapons. And until Freddy picked up the, whatever you want to call it, the thing that...
Machete,
I guess, yeah. Until Freddy picked up Jason's machete, it didn't dawn on me that these 2 characters each have their own iconic weapon.
Yeah.
And it would be cool if he rips Freddy's arm off and starts stabbing him with it. Something he's never done. He never Like, you'd think that'd be a joke, right? He'd, like, beat someone else with their own arm, but he never does that. He rips off a couple arms, but he doesn't beat anybody with them until he meets Freddy Krueger.
He puts people in sleeping bags and just flings the sleeping bag around until they die.
Yeah.
Jesus. Hold on, I'm sorry. I missed one.
Yeah.
Okay. Alien versus Jason versus Predator versus Freddy versus Godzilla
Versus Godzilla.
versus King Kong.
Isn't there...
There it is. There they are.
Am I high, or is there already a Freddy Krueger versus Godzilla?
That would be insane. That would be insane.
I feel like there is, though. Hold on. Freddy versus Godzilla.
Godzilla's just sleeping the whole movie. That would be insane.
No, I thought it was a... I guess it... No, it doesn't seem like it. I thought it was a comic book. I thought there was a Freddy versus Godzilla comic book, but there's
Godzilla's
not.
just sleeping the whole movie, and all the normal people are, like, freaking out. They're like, what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah, it was... At the end of the day, and at the end of this podcast, I had fun. I liked the Friday the 13th movies way more, with the exception of New Nightmare. I think New Nightmare is the best film I've watched so far. I still have 2 more to go, but I felt that this podcast could happen without me watching them because they're like actual reboots, and they have, I'm assuming, going to have nothing to do with the other ones. If something crazy happens that like messes with canon of the originals, then maybe I'll bring it up on the next podcast or something. But, yeah, that was my journey with Friday the 13th. Thank you for coming on me. Coming on me? Thank you for coming on me.
Oh, boy.
Thank you for coming with me on this journey, is what I was trying to say.
That's not what you said.
No,
but
it's
okay.
not what I said, but it was the intent, you know?
Ah. Now Jason's going to come for you.
Well,
You ask somebody to do that to you.
I've seen every bit of lore on both of you. I know how to stop you.
You know they can't be stopped.
Fuck you. I know how to temporarily stop you. Freddy, I'm not afraid of you. Let me just get this out of the way right now. Freddy, I am not afraid of you. That's step 1. You got to tell him verbally. I'll cut this part out so he doesn't hear me.
Step 0 is you don't talk about him, and you already screwed that up.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, the whole podcast was that. Yeah, I guess step 1 is technically don't fall asleep ever. There's a scene in if I can end the podcast with this. The 6th Friday the 13th movie. Nope. The 6th Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It's one of the worst ones, but it's got the most inventive, like, dream nightmare sequence scenes. And there's a part where these 3 kids are driving and they're lost. And the woman who's driving is talking to the person in the back, and she's like, we're lost, give me the map. And you find out that he's having a nightmare about being lost. And he's opening the map, and it just keeps opening and opening, and it's like an infinite map, and he finally opens it. And what's staring at him is a map, and in blood is written the words, "You're fucked." And I was like... This is the peak. That is the funniest thing I've seen in any of these movies. And I think they know that it was funny.
That's the thing with these slasher movies. They know the innate humor that comes along with them. Like, they know it's going to be funny to some level.
I feel like, especially with the middle, like, 5, 6, 7 era of of Nightmare on Elm Street, they were really trying to be funny.
Yeah. I feel like Freddy in general has more sense of a humor. Well, he talks, so that's a good first step.
Also, I thought Scary Terry was a bit. I didn't actually think Freddy Krueger said bitch all the time. It's crazy how many times he says it. I found an 8-minute supercut on YouTube of him saying bitch over and over again.
Awesome.
So, anyways, that was that. Thank you for listening to Cinematic Relief. It's out of my system. I can go to sleep now. Or maybe I shouldn't. But until next time, I've been Thunder.
I'm Lightning.
Stay safe, stay clean, and we'll see you next time.
Bitch.